Welcome everybody to SQL Friday. This is SQL Friday number 9. Our star for today is Menaka Basker, and I probably didn't pronounce that correctly, so please correct me when you start, Menaka. Menaka is going to talk about modern data platform Azure Cosmos DB with .NET Core. So basically an overview of Cosmos DB, the APIs that you can program against, and how to do that with .NET Core. The session is being recorded. It will be published on the Transmocopter YouTube channel and also on SQLFriday.net, where all the previous sessions also are embedded on the past sessions page. Welcome, Menaka. I'm really thrilled to have you here. The stage is all yours.
Yeah. Today, my session is about modern data platform Azure Cosmos DB with .NET Core. Before I'm inviting to my session, I want to make sure why I choose this session to deliver, because we have a lot of storage things available in our Cosmos other than Cosmos in our Azure service. Why is especially I choose this modern data platform as Azure Cosmos DB, and why I choose my SDK as .NET Core, because I have other languages that supports my Azure connectivity, and CLI is also available. So these two things have a good combination, and what's new on those both things, and how we are going to integrate the connection and establish our data via our storage account. That's what we are going to discuss today. So this is about me. For any queries and inquiries, you can reach out me via my LinkedIn or my Twitter account. So today's agenda: what is Cosmos DB? What are the key benefits of Cosmos DB? Types of Cosmos DB, consistency model, accompanied by two demos that makes you a clear understanding of how the .NET Core and Azure Cosmos DB work from backend. So before going into the agenda, I want to make sure some things people prefer as a customer or an end user what from an application. They want the reliability and scalability. If I'm going with my traditional approach, even I'm working as a one DB programmer, as a front end programmer, and as well as the DB maintainer, the both the task I want my application to replicate all the data that been updated in my DB. So if we are going with the traditional approach, I will tell my friend and some other people just wait for 15 minutes for refreshment, so the data get refreshed to the application. So that's what makes Cosmos DB as a growing today in today's environment, because the read and write operations are performed very high, and the scalability and reliability that makes the Cosmos DB to the next invention level. So that's what we are going to see today. What's Cosmos DB? It is the fastest non-SQL database with open APIs for any scale. So from here we can understand the scalability is maximum for this Azure Cosmos DB, and its guaranteed speed at any time make it to the very high availability as well as the low latency. The fast flexible for they are very fast and flexible for app development. This can be seen via our Azure portal, while we can see how we are executing the query and how the data get fetched immediately. So, and then it is a security. Wherever DB comes, the security plays an important role, because every data, either it's a QA or production or test, every data is very important from the client end. So that's very important. It's a cost-effective and serverless database. This is a main point. But as a traditional, people will say about Cosmos DB is little bit costly. It exactly depends on your throughput as well as your data. How much data you are storing, how that much amount you need to pay. Because the Cosmos DB is under the Azure platform. Azure have the predefined payment scale as pay as go service. So what you use, you will pay. So this is about Cosmos DB. Other than that, I want to add something like Cosmos DB, the data are stored as a semi-structured data, and there are some other API that available that will be discussed in our further slides that makes our migration work very easier. You can think I have an enterprise application I want to migrate everything to my cloud. So my application works very fast, as well as I can sort things. I can do all the product catalog item to be uploaded to my application. So those kind of requirements are there. At the same time, I have a MongoDB database related application. I want to migrate to cloud service. So this is another case. Same thing applicable to SQL query as well as the table storage, everything. So this Cosmos DB comprise everything within a single view page where you can select what kind of API you can use. So the migration plays an important role. So here you can choose the type of API depending upon your previous knowledge and the previous database you've been worked and existing application users. So that makes the Cosmos DB as a top in notch of technology. So let's go to next slide, like key advantages. Before we going to explain about key advantages, I just want to tell, like as a .NET developer or a Java developer who been integrating Cosmos DB, even as a Azure developer who been working in a CLI part of Cosmos DB, will say this as first: the response time and the way we are writing the data, whether it's an insert query or update query or other a simple stored procedure by using a JavaScript function, or just you are using a functions to trigger a background activity, it's very less time. So the operation of scalability is high compared to other DB. So it is like a turnkey global distribution. So wherever your users are, users can interact with the data that is closest to them. That is depends on your consistency model you are choosing. So the consistency model that makes your data available to your user depending upon their own consistency. So this is always on procedure makes its SLA to reach above 99.9% availability for both read and write. And it's have the scalability. Scalability is the main concern of this Cosmos DB that makes our Cosmos DB to grow as in today environment. So, and there is a low latency. Even here I want to stress something like low latency, high availability, and everything that depends on even your cost, that depends on your consistency model you are choosing. If I choose the consistency model with high availability and low latency, I need to pay little more. If I choose my consistency model, like I just need this available to particular user in particular region, and this throughput need to be this much. If I'm customize something on my Cosmos DB, the amount will be calculated on the basis of what I am doing in my consistency model. And there is like index management, and this is a no schema. So this you don't need to manage or deal a lot with the things which have no schema. That makes it work perfectly with the DB where you have no idea about schemas. So these all are the key advantages of Azure Cosmos DB, and that's the only reason when we are migrating something to the storage in our Azure, that makes us to choose the Azure Cosmos DB. So other than that, what you can say, like why we are going with .NET Core. As I said before, there are a lot of SDKs available. You can do this with Java, or even the command line interface also available. That makes my connectivity very easily. Why we are going with .NET Core? It's .NET Core is a platform that supports every kind of background OS. So if I have a Mac OS, my application works. If I have a Linux OS, my application works, as well as the Windows. So that makes my application work independently of my OS. It's an open platform. And second thing is I can able to integrate that with my source code. So this open to source code option makes it availability. I can able to integrate my code. I can able to collect some other codes, and I can able to publish my code easily via open source community. So integrating those both technology is very good, and it creates a high productivity from the customer end as well as in the developer end. Going on to the next slide. I think it's got hanged. And see, okay, this is like types of Cosmos DB API. As I told before, like we have certain API that been inbuilt in our Azure Cosmos DB that makes our migration works easier. So today I'm just going to say once in further demo, you can understand like what exactly this SQL API works. Other APIs depends on the platform migration on along with your old database approach, whatever you used in our previous existing application. So SQL API is like our normal SQL. So the queries, everything will be similar to our normal SQL as you are doing in our Microsoft SQL. And other thing here you want to deal is like it's something special to work with SQL API, because SQL API is commonly and readily usable with what all those kind of things, like even you have no idea about the database that been in your existing application, and there is no idea about the schemas. So you can use your SQL API for your migration activity. And second thing is like MongoDB API. I have my existing application in MongoDB and I have the knowledge also in MongoDB. I want to do my migration activity to Azure, that's especially Azure Cosmos DB. So I can use a MongoDB API here. And same thing applicable to Cassandra API also. I already have the knowledge of SQL query, so I can do all my things in SQL. So that makes me easier to work, because key space working with key space is more easier compared to that of other things. So you can migrate your project to Cassandra API by choosing a Cassandra API. Germaline API is also known as a Graph API. I have an application like my application order. I have two tables, like comparing, like I have two things like product as well as the customer. Whenever my product is getting ordered by the customer, my customer table or something related to customer need to be updated. So I have a relationship between the both the things. So that kind of activity where we are establishing a relationship, we can use a Germaline API. And this is a new API that is in preview, that is etcd API. That API supports the environment where your etcd or your migration depends on your etcd. So if I have an enterprise application, I just want to add a catalog, I just need to extract something for a viewer end application for a simple data management, or with the database migration where I have no idea about schema things. So you can go directly to SQL API. And if sometime I have my application that need to establish the relationship, so I can able to relate the product that been sold by some one team and another team. So at that kind of things, you can go with the Germaline or Graph API, that is specially used for comparing two things. In other case, you already have a knowledge about SQL queries, so I'm doing migration, so which API I can choose. If you have if you feel that working with key space is very easy, you can go with Cassandra API. Already existing DB is a MongoDB, and what kind of migration, what kind of API I need to do, choose whether I'm doing my migration, you can go with MongoDB API. It specially and depends on our own requirement and the existing application persistent model, how it exactly been there. And other than that, depends on the schemas. Like as I said before, if you have lot of confusion in your existing application regarding your schema, just go blindly with SQL API. SQL API supports everything except one case. You cannot like code reuse is not possible. So that is the only case you cannot apply SQL API. Other than that, you can use SQL API for every purpose other than the certain criteria, like migration activity, which you have already the existing DB stuffs. Next slide is, I think, consistency model. So this is the main thing we need to consider if you are planning for migrating something to your Cosmos DB. Because why I am stressing this point here a lot is, like I am going to do my activities, everything to my Cosmos DB. So I can directly migrate to Cosmos DB, because creating a container, creating a database, everything is very easy here. So I can go directly and I can perform an activity of read and write. That is main concern is like what kind of consistency model you are choosing. It purely depend upon your application usability, the available user list. So if you want your application to highly available, go with the arrow mark. It shows like from the session model to eventual model. if I want my availability to very lesser to particular user where the read and write operation is need to be restricted and need to be governed and need to be monitored, in that case go to the model that been like from strong to session. So by default, when you are started working in your Cosmos DB, the default model is like a session model. So what it says, like I'm not over consistent as well as not weaker consistent. As a mediator, I'm balancing both. But as per my knowledge, in project level, if I'm developing some enterprise application where I need to meet my client requirement, everyone will go to the bounded standless, because like they need to have the availability to be restricted and they need to monitor everything with very high latency as well as with the lower throughput. So in that case, I need to go either with my strong or bounded stainless. As default, we will have session that been already chosen by our Azure while we are creating our Azure Cosmos DB service. If I want a high availability and high throughput, I just can go with eventual or consistent prefix model. So my availability to user as well as either it is in region or with many region, everything is possible via this model. So that makes the Azure DB is a costlier or effective. By choosing the correct consistency model, in further topic it will come the correct partition key. That is a main thing that makes our Azure Cosmos DB effective or not effective. So choose your consistency model based on your requirement as well as the based on your client expectation. So that will reduce your cost also, as well as choose the partition key which will be discussed in further topic. So that will makes your partition like logical or physical partition, that will makes your availability also easier. So this is a consistency model. Why we are preferring to the particular cloud service provider like Azure, why not others, like because whenever the data items comes into the point, the two things comes into the mind. One is the data privacy and another thing is compliance. So wherever we have the client data, we need to protect the data. That is very important. Even we are working in the Citrix environment and all my things being installed to my Citrix, I need to protect my data. I don't want my data to be get breached. So Azure they invested nearly 1 billion USD for the security purpose itself, with a level of 3,500 security expect. That will meet the compliance certification more than the expectation, and that is the main case that people are migrating to Azure Cosmos DB. Not only Azure Cosmos DB, the security implication, all Azure services being implicated by those security compliance certificate, that makes people to migrate towards the Azure. So I actually a lot of things today we are going to discuss is about seeing our live demo. So that's what I just want to show more than experiencing by slides. So at first from scratch we are going to see our model from here. Okay. This is already I made 2 test DBs for a demo that are being integrated with my .NET Core application. From step 1, how we are going to do from a scratch, that's what we are going to start from here. So if you see here, is usually what we will do to choose our service. So just clicking Azure Cosmos DB. So those kind of activities will be already known by the one have the knowledge of Azure. If we are new to Azure, we need some clarity about the subscriptions and resource group. That makes our money. This kind of concepts makes cost effectiveness. Whatever my remaining amounts we have in our account, either it is our professional account or whatever, it will maintain our cost. So try to club every resource within the same resource group. That makes you easy for your work purpose. And another thing, if you are doing a publishing activities, and keep everything it's app service or everything within the single service, that may reduce your cost. It's a simple thing, so you can do. So subscription I already have. So resource group, I'm just going with like Cosmos DB demo. If you want, you can create. So I just giving like here where I need to choose my API. if I want to go with SQL traditional API, it is already available. So this is like a prefix API, so you don't need to go select from the drop down. For every application where you have no knowledge about the schema and you want to migrate in very toughest situation, you can go blindly with the SQL code. But if you want to go some migration activity on particular API, you can go with the individually by choosing this API. Based on your API, your entire Cosmos DB service will look alike. Because here I have something like SQL, I have something like a collection where I will create my container. If you go with a MongoDB, that is same applicable to my table also. If I go with a MongoDB, I will have some other thing like key space and something like table ID. So different things for every migration, it need the expert knowledge of the particular DB while we are migrating. That's what I made sure, like if you are migrating, just make sure you have already the knowledge of the particular DB, because you are going to perform the same operation after migrating also here. So at least we need to know the how SQL query works, like how we will create a table in SQL query. So based on those, we need some things. So if you are going with a graph, same thing is applicable, like you need to have a knowledge about indexes and vertices. Another thing is like account type is like production or non-production. You want to enable geo-redundancy, its availability based on availability zone. It's a multi-region rights. If you want, you can do. So once you can click create, it will auto deploy. So you will get the service that available to your. Choose the location where you want to host your application. It's a default location. If you want on the particular location, choose that also. And you can also download the template for automation. It's work like a virtual machine. So you can click and you can open the service directly. So this will take time. So now let's go to the work coding platform, how it works. So I have today 2 demo model. First demo model is about in how things being created in our Cosmos DB, and the second demo is for as an application how my DB works with my application. So because if we are creating something, we need to understand readily how from my application end it need to work. So so before that we need to understand how it works. So for that purpose I made 2 demos. In this first demo, you can see it's a simple console application that been happening in my DB. So at first my task is getting created. After that my database is getting created. After that my container is getting created. All the progress in my container are being executed. After that it shows me the result like process executes correctly. This is the main thing we need to concern about. So in Cosmos DB, how are my data being stored? If you come here, if you come here, after my deployment, this is how my Cosmos DB looks like. So my data will be stored inside my container. My database hold that container. How data is getting stored, that I will show at the end of the session, so you can get better understanding. So this is actually how my after creating a container inside my Cosmos DB looks like. So inside my database, I will have a container section that acts as a holding my data, everything. That data being differentiated by means of the partition key. That partition key makes my data to differ from the logical and physical section. So this is how after deployment my Cosmos DB looks like. Those are the tabs we need to explore further. So after this, I'm going to my course coding session, so I can show how it is work. So here you can see, while you are establishing a connection with Azure Cosmos DB, the first and primary thing you need to do, this is not only for Azure Cosmos DB, any Azure service you are trying to implement or trying to connect with your SDK, you want to establish your key and your endpoint. This endpoint and key, make sure that you have the rights to access this. This contains the information of your Azure things, credential detail. So whatever the service before you want to create an endpoint and key, and you need to authenticate. This endpoint and key will be readily available once after you create the service in Azure Cosmos DB. That will be here. So you can access from here. You can choose the URI from here as well as your primary key. So just authenticate yourself. You have the rights to access this service. After that, what I am going to do is, once after I authenticate, as per the process, we need to create a database. That database I cannot create from my portal end. I need to create from here if I'm using from an application end. So my application need to do that action. So what I am doing is, I'm first creating a database. It's a very simple to create a database. If as like an EF code, it's an entity framework. We don't need to write a lot of code to establish our connection to our database. It's just create database if not exist as in. So here you need to pass your database ID. This database ID is a database name that you want your Cosmos DB to hold on. So this is a database name. So once if the why I create use the method like create database if not exist. At first time I need to create database. After that, all my progress, all my data activities will be performed inside the same database. If I like create database, every time it will create the same database, but the name is unique, so it will throws you an error like a DB name already exists. So that creates some of the issue, because within the Azure Cosmos DB, if you have the database with which contain the container with the same name, it will create a conflict while you are doing a physical partition or logical partition. So make sure you give the meaningful name while you are creating a database as well as container. Once my database is created, I want to create my container inside the database so that my container will hold my values, that is data. So after this line, I'm just giving my create container. So this code will calls the method of this, where I am creating my container inside the database. I just declared my database class. If you want to go with the database response also, that is also well and good, because database response also create the same thing inside your DB. If you already have the database that been created above, you can use directly like database name. So here what I am doing is, we are not aware of database name because we are creating just before step. So I am going with this step. So after that, what I am doing is, I am creating a container based on my data response. This data response is from my database. Once my database creation is successful, I will have the space there, so I can create my container there. That is the meaning of this. After that, I am creating the container. Container logic also same as like a database logic. If you have already the same name container inside the database, it will create a conflict for me. Which container have which data while I am doing a partition. So make clear of the name while you are giving to the container. This is a partition key. So while you are creating a container, you need to mention your partition key. What is partition key? Think something like, I have something in a group, everything like food items. In food items, food group is a common thing. Food group contains something like vegetables one session, meats another session, and some other snacks another session. So all the groups have the common property as food group. So partitioning those things like everything is easily if I have the common property for all the groups. So that is what exactly called as a partition key. So choosing the correct partition key makes your work easier if you are handling your physical or logical partition, because physical and logical partition plays an important role when you are accessing your data and whenever you want to see whether any defect is there. So whenever you have any problem with your data or some other load problems, you need to monitor or you need to manage your Azure Cosmos DB and the container based on this partition key. So make sure that you are giving the correct partition. After that, yeah, that's ended. Like I created a database. After that, I create a container inside the database. So inside a container, I created something. I need some data to add to that container. So that makes meaningful to me. Like I can able to view data, how my data looks inside my container, how Azure Cosmos DB stores its data. So I just created a simple student class that holds some of the details. So I just going to store this data inside the container that is in the Azure Cosmos DB. So how it is possible, like storing data, like I need to write lot of query, like inserting query or updating query. After that, for reading that data, I need to write something like get queries, where I need to mention everything. Here from SDKN, you don't need to struggle that much for reading or writing something inside your Cosmos DB container. It's very simple thing. Usually, if the item is already exist, there is already the sum of the items based on the partition key. It's very easy for me to read that item from that container. If I don't have any item inside my container, I just want to create a something, and then after I want to read that. That is also very possible. It is like updating as well as reading the data. So I'm going with the second thing, like at first while I'm running this program, it will go to the catch block, because it will try to read something inside this container based on the details I given here, but it will not find anything. So here the partition key is details.name. Make sure that this partition key you are giving for creating the container, once you given the partition key something in your container and you are passing something like ID or something, it will not. It will store the data of the particular string type. Like if I give name as a partition key, it will store the particular name based content, and it will partition based on that. If I give, while I'm creating the container, partition key as name, and then if I give something like ID or some other thing, it will not work out. So make sure that you giving the partition key correctly while you are creating the container and while you are trying to access the data from your container. So usually we have the approach of using the ID as a common property, because we will use the ID for as a foreign key for other tables or something. So here why we are having partition key in different names. So this is where we need to concern a lot. Like we don't need actually to establish a relationship or anything that we need to compare or something, but we need to partition the data so that my throughput will be very good and my accessibility also good. So I cannot handle a lot of requests at same time. So splitting the details and making its availability visible makes my works efficient. That is a primary concern of this Cosmos DB. That's what defining the property based on the common property. So they are splitting based on the common property. Once this create item async function, I will get all the details inside the container. This is a hard-coded value. If you want to do from your other class the migration from the user end, that will also I show in another demo. This is like a hard-coded value. It's have no visibility of the application or UI port or something, but we can see the data in our Cosmos DB. So after that, I just creating the container. I'm adding my detail. Once my second thing is executed, I'm just reading the values. After that, the process executed. It's in. So how this data looks inside my Cosmos DB. That's what we need to see. So if you go here, I'm going to my subscription. See, once after you creating the service, once you create a database and container inside the database, you will see the three values like container ID, database, as well as the throughput. This throughput is a customizable. You can customize either via your CLI or as well as the SDK. Everything are customizable. Like it's not needed to create from this end. But if you are working on application end to D, as like EF core, like a DB first approach or code first approach, I want readily available DB to start my work. So in that case, you need to go from your SDK. That's the main concern. So here itself, I can able to monitor my request, my cost also. This cost established my based on my, I already told here the cost is mainly concerned about throughput and storage. Here the total number of requests that makes that comes into my Cosmos DB that been inside my Azure portal. So this makes you like I can able to identify my which port exactly, as well as the amount of requests that been for an hour to 30 days. So this monitoring is very good, because whenever the load is more, I can adjust my throughput, or I can change my consistency model or something to make my application better availability. So this is one thing. So after this, you need to go to Data Explorer. The one I created here is this one in this name. So let's see by running this. So it will take some time to load because that's what I preloaded those things. Anyway, we can see in our portal until it's get this. So here inside my container, I can able to view the ID and data that I been stored. So if you give what's a hard coded value, so I have single ID. See, this is exactly how my data from my normal console application that been stored into my Azure Cosmos DB. It's look exactly like a JSON format. So accessing JSON is very easy compared to other things like XML or something. So the data is also storing as like a JSON format is very easy to access when your application trying to communicate with your DB. There is a main concern that makes our Azure Cosmos DB as a high-end application which supports for high-end application where you need the accessibility and scalability at a very high. So this is how my data being stored here. So if you want to add some other with the name as a partition key, you can use by using an insert query from here as well as from your database end. For here you cannot use like insert or something, you need to write create. So every time when you are inserting something, you need to write the query as create, sorry, code as create. For reading or getting or retrieving data, you need to go with same thing. I think I have my debugger here. Something. So it's beginning the task. So step by step, it will create the database. It's already created. It will check whether the databases exist on the particular name or not. Or if it is not, it will create the new database. If it is already exist, it will just do an async operation. It's not action, and then it will check the container. It will check that the container is exist or not. Same process will be repeated for details also. By this, we can able to insert and read the data. But if I'm working on a readily application, I want to understand how my data is working, how my data is getting inserted, how the changes I'm making in my data getting reflected into my DB. For that, I cannot go with this console because console is the same for all activity. If I'm going with a framework or code, and there is no differentiation of my architecture also, my platform where I'm working. So it's better to understand from readily available application. So I created a simple application of a model view controller with Azure Cosmos DB. So this is the architecture, and you can see I will explain the steps individually. So this application takes time to load. This is because of my SDK. It's not because of my Cosmos DB, because I have not extinguished anything till now. Once the application loaded, after that only I am going to establish my connection, everything. If you are working from, this is a simple example. I just want to show how to insert data, how to delete, how fast my application working in Cosmos DB. That's the only thing. You can see from my SDK itself, it takes this much time to load. It's nearly, I think so, like 1 to 3 to 5 minutes. But data, how my data is being worked in my application, like inserting or deleting, how fast my data is getting worked on back. Let's see that. Before that, we can see what difference I made from my console to my like a model view controller where I have view page. That's a traditional application. It's like a normal user registration or some other, whatever we can call that. So what I am doing is the same step I repeated here also, but with the concern of few things. There I given my things like endpoint and URL. I'm giving those things like environmental variable, those things which cannot be changed further. My application need to hold these values constant whenever I'm deploying my application. I don't need to deploy to generate a .dll file for that. So I can keep those common values, or whatever the secret things I want to keep, like key or some other values, I can do in my application settings.json. Once it is done, I want to access everything from here. So I need a separate class. I can use this value as a tightly coupled value, or at least I can use directly to my controller where I'm performing operation. I can use in that step also. So what I am doing is the same step we did there. I'm just rewriting my code based on my framework support. That is a console, so the steps are very simple, but console application we cannot use for a readily available web application. It's for learning purpose how actually Cosmos DB works. This is a readily approach how actually if I am having a front end application backend supported by my .NET Core, how it works. So if I'm seeing here, the first thing is like I want to configure those things from my app setting.json to my startup file. So that makes me to work with the tightly coupled classes. Whatever the service I'm getting the values, or I'm injecting in some other controller, I want to register those values in my startup class. Here I am using iCosmos controller that has the methods that I am going to create or perform, like create container or create database. All these methods being in the iCosmos interface. So I just initializing this iCosmos along with other instance by using a simple initialization method where I'm getting all the values from my app setting.json. I'm just doing in a async manner. So I am giving a await operators. So this will goes to here. Here is where all my complete things I did in my console happening. So there is some difference that need to support for MVC, like from app setting I want to get a value into my startup class. I need to use get section so I can get the value of my individual endpoint and key and database value, everything. Once after that, I just used the authenticate method, so I performed authentication. But for an MVC or view page application, you need to create a client, and that client will authenticate your endpoint and key, and it makes you as you are allowed user to use this service. After that, the things are same like my data response. Once it is done, based on my client authentication, I'm going to create a database if it does not exist, or else I can use my old database. This database name is nothing but the database ID which we seen in our console. After the database being created, I want to make sure I given the correct thing while I'm doing my container, creating my container, because I need to choose the correct key. Based on that key only my containers, all the items in my containers are getting partitioned. So make sure that this ID is correct. After that, it's common like I'm going to pause my client, that is my authentication, along with my database name and container name. I'm just going to return the same Cosmos which contain the container, because all the read operation, write operation, everything are performed inside the container. So creating the container and returning the container from code end is very important while you are performing any application activity in Cosmos DB. So while we are compiling, we can see that how. So just I'm giving some IDs, just giving my name and mail and my location. So I'm just clicking create. See, I just kept the compiler like endpoint here. So I will have my things inside my controller, Cosmos controller. Create. So once the value is getting created, so you can see I can just jumping So this returns me the values. So what exactly it is happening is, once I am inserting everything, it's inserted, and the value I inserted also appended along with the other value that existing. So here the action you are performing is working. I just use this method to make sure how to write the query and use that query inside as a link queue inside your code. So I can just give my query as a in a double quotes as like same like a link queue, and I can pass my query directly without doing any action, because usually while we are writing the query, that will need your one from in a traditional approach, you need to make sure that it is not stored procedure approach or text approach, and then you need to pass that query. Here you don't need to mention that it's a stored procedure or what other things like text or something. So you can directly pass inside your container by using a get item query iterator. It's a predefined query iterator that will perform action of your query inside your query definition. Once it is done, it's normally a regular thing. It will read everything, and after that it will append the value. Just giving. Loading again. You can give continue. So I can refresh. Okay. And I can give continue. Let's take action. It's getting a data. So here I think so we need to give amount values. It's returning view for every values. So to check the value it's get inserted or not, just refresh it. Let's go again to here. I can just stop my things. Then I can take my breakpoints so that again that value is trying to get inserting. So after that I'm just checking whether it's going to other class or not. Sometime it will navigate to the class. Just running application. In meantime it's get loaded. Can check in DB. This is the database I created. Container. Inside my container, let's select star and we can see. So here we can explore all these things, like we can write new query, everything from our portal itself. You don't need to do separately in separate SDK. So you can do from here. So my values, I think 2 values been there. I just inserted another value. I want to check why that value is not getting loaded. Let me do from here. Just rerun my application to work. Okay, fine. Oh, sorry. It's a control. Stopping my application. So until it's load, we can explore here other things, like you can write your stored procedure here, like if you want to perform some other actions by means of your stored procedure, you can directly write. At the same time, you can add .js file also in your library after creating the stored procedure. Either you can create a stored procedure here and you can use the stored procedure there, or else you can create the stored procedure as a .js file and you can use that in your library file, and you can migrate those things to here also. everything can be possible, but you need to have a knowledge of JavaScript, because everything can be done by means of JavaScript knowledge while you are writing your store procedure. Other than that, the same thing is applicable to your functions also. So if I already had my some stored procedure in a JavaScript, so it's showing. If you want to perform some serverless function activity where you don't need to contact your server, or at the same time you don't need to contact your application, it's a weekend activity or day process, you can do by means of triggers also from Azure Functions. So let me try again once. It's my So my application, my data, you can see how faster the data get inserted in my application. And if I see here the same things, okay, I can go to my query itself. So if I execute, you can see here also, you can see how scalable it is. Like it's a fraction of minute, I just click there and my things getting updated here. The same thing is applicable for huge data also. If you are migrating, I have a lot of file in Excel or some other thing, I want to migrate to Cosmos DB, how it is possible. It's a simple data, so you directly did with a very lesser time. The same thing is applicable for data also. It's something for there is something like a connector is there in between your data migration activity, so you can use that connector to migrate your data fastly into your Azure Cosmos DB. So this is only for insetting operation. If I am deleting something or updating something, how fast my application will be. Let's check that also. Like I'm just clicking delete. So my application end, it's very faster. So if I'm going back to my Cosmos, so same thing will get updated, and I cannot see the third name I'm using. So this is the scalability, and that's what Azure Cosmos DB is very effective for developers as well as SQL people, as well as non-SQL people. Everyone can work based on their knowledge and previous experience on certain things like data, MongoDB or SQL. Whatever knowledge they have, everyone can work independently when they are doing a migration or starting from the scratch. So this is quite easy to work, user friendly. I can able to monitor. I told you something like physical and logical partition. That is main thing while you are choosing your partition key. So I can able to see the analyze the request or some other thing. So make sure that like your partition key is correct, so that you can able to partition your product and make it availability easier to the user. And another thing to see before we are going for another controls, data replication. Data replication you can enable based on your read and write operation. That is purely depends on the zone where you are creating your Cosmos DB services. This is what I told about the consistency. It's as a default, it will have the session consistency. If you want to go for strong, but your availability is very lesser, but your latency will be higher. If you want to go with even sure, your high availability will be very higher and you will have very low latency, and it will have the much easy data access, like every user from every end will access to the nearby region. So this is important while you are choosing your thing. This can be set in portal, but throughput and all you can customize either using your CLI as well as your SDK. So something you need to do here in the portal, make sure that you cannot do from your SDK ends. Other than that, you can add your cognitive search also while you are searching something. I need to use a search bar that need to send me back the product of the particular product. That kind of thing you can use the cognitive search also. Those all are the main things you need to. I just give the overview and everything that you need to know before starting working in Azure Cosmos DB. And I'm end up my session. I hope I given a clarity of Cosmos DB with the .NET Core apps.
I think you did, yeah. And I mean, like always when you do a demo, there is going to be something that that didn't work first time, but you get that value in eventually. So, and I haven't used Cosmos DB myself, so it was really useful to see an overview of the different possibilities with it. So
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Magnus.
If there are any questions, please just post them in the chat and we will take them up with Menaka. I don't see any questions yet. So I think maybe that means it was all clear. So it looks like we don't have any questions. Then I am just gonna thank you again for coming to SQL Friday.
Thank you, Magnus.
And I am trying to do some sharing. There it is. No, there it is. We have some cool upcoming sessions as well. Next week, Thomas Castrun is going to tell us about Azure Databricks. So we have lots of Azure coming up. This week was Cosmos, and next week is going to be Databricks. And then Torsten Strauss is going to talk about optimistic concurrency level in SQL Server. And if you go to sqlfriday.net and click the schedule button, you will see all the upcoming sessions. And as you can see, we have filled the schedule until October 23rd. I want to especially mention the October 16th session, which is when I will have the Data Weekend organizing team on, and we will talk about the next episode or the next Data Weekender conference, which is going to happen on October 17th. If you don't know what Data Weekender is, it's an online conference. We did the first one on May the 2nd. We had over 600 people attending throughout the day with a total of 42 sessions. We will open the call for speakers soon, and you can already now sign up for the conference on meetup.com/dataweekender. Shameless plug on my part, but I'm one of the organizers, so I get to do that. Again, thank you, Menaka, for coming. I'm going to stop the recording and go and maybe cook some food for my kids and go out and enjoy the sun. It's my last day of the summer.
Thank you.
See you around.
Bye.